Hey folks, I'm Jesse from Penalty Box Woodshop, and today I'm going to show you how I turn some scrap walnut into this beautiful live edge charcuterie board. Charcuterie boards are used to display meats, cheeses, and fruits at parties and gatherings. They're basically really nice serving trays. So this project took me one day from start to finish, and I'm going to walk you through each step. So let's get started. A while back, I was given a stack of air-dried walnut that had been stored outdoors for some time. There were a lot of good boards in the stack, but a few had live edges, wormholes, and were just not suited for some projects. But there were a few boards in the stack that I thought would be perfect for a charcuterie board. So I grabbed a chisel and cleaned up some of the live edges, and then I cut the board to about 33 inches. For a project like this one, any type of hardwood will do just fine. The size of your charcuterie board is completely up to you and can be customized to fit you or your customer's needs. This board needed to be flattened and it was too wide for my joiner, so I used my planer sled, some shims, and my planer to flatten it. If you don't have a planer, you can use a router and a router sled, or you can just use a hand plane to flatten your board if it needs it. After it was nice and flat on both sides, I used some epoxy and hazelnut colored tint to fill all the wormholes. There were a lot of them, but I think it just adds some character to the board. After the epoxy was cured, I removed the excess with my planer. Next, I started to lay out the handle for the board. Again, the design and shape is completely up to you, and you can be as creative as you want with this. I used some circle cutoffs from another project to help me with the lines, and I used one of my table saw push stick handles to trace a comfortable width for the handle of the board. After a few adjustments, I liked the shape that I had come up with, so I clamped my board to my bench and used my cordless jigsaw to cut out the handle. This was a pretty simple process, and I wasn't very worried about being exactly on my lines for this. After cutting out the handle, I got out my spindle sander and smoothed all of the edges and rounded parts. And if you don't have a spindle sander, don't worry, a palm sander will work just fine. Over at the drill press, I used a Forstner bit to drill a hole at the end of the handle. I've seen the thumb holes on other boards and I like the way it looked, and I thought it would be a nice way to hang the board for storage once it's finished. With my cordless router, I broke all the edges except for the live edge with a slight chamfer. For the live edge, I got out one of my sanders and used a low grit sandpaper to really clean them up and ensure that all the bark and sharp edges were gone. That opened up a few more wormholes, so I had to bust out the epoxy one last time to fill them. Once that epoxy cured, I sanded the entire board starting at 80 grit and stopping at 180 grit. Using a spray bottle, I sprayed all sides of the board with water. This will raise the grain before the final sanding and ensure that the board stays smooth forever. Once it was dry, I sanded it to a final 220 grit. Now for my favorite part, the finish. I use an all-natural finish like Howard's or Walrus Oil, but you can make your own like my buddy Matt over at MWA Woodworks. It's a simple process that, after seeing his video, I'll start using from now on. After I apply the first coat, I let it dry for a few hours before wiping the excess off. I let that dry and applied a second coat just because this walnut really seemed like it needed it. After that second coat had dried, I buffed it out for one last time, and this simple one-day project is complete. All right, folks, that does it for us this week, and I appreciate you tuning in. As always, if you have any questions, throw them in the comment section. I'll be sure to get to all of them. Also, there'll be a list of all the tools that I use in this build down in the description section with affiliate links for all of them. Anytime you use those links, it helps out my channel, and I truly appreciate it. Again, I appreciate your support, and I'll see you on the next video.